Now let's move on to football. Football rivals Swindon and Oxford meet for the first time in almost a decade this weekend.
With all the sport, David Passmore. Hello, David.
Hi Chris, thanks very much indeed. Yes, they've been waiting since the 8th of December 2002. That was the last time the sides met. But the passing of time has done nothing to reduce one of the sharpest rivalries in the country. Now, kick-off has been moved to 1 o'clock on Sunday and fans are asked to arrive early. Upwards of 100 officers will be there, supported by mounted police from the Thames Valley Force. The 3,000 away tickets have sold out and no tickets are on sale on the day. 160 club stewards will be on duty. Special coaches and a train have been laid on and there's designated parking for away fans. But why have these clubs 30 miles apart always been such fierce rivals? Through the years, these games have been passionate affairs, large crowds with a police presence to match. The build-up to this game saw vandals break into the Oxford ground and daub the initials STFC on the pitch last weekend.
When the people stop you in the town every day and talking about Oxford.
Swindon's new manager is used to the passions of Italian football and has no doubt about how important Sunday's game is to the fans.
As a manager, I have to be cool, but the fact that I felt in my stomach butterfly means that I will do even more than I did until today, my job properly, to prepare as the best we can this game, because I know what it means for the fans.
This was the last league match between the sides, March 2001, and a 2-0 win for Swindon, with a short break when the players were taken off the pitch after objects were thrown at the Swindon keeper. Oxford's allocation of 3,000 tickets has sold out. Like many, these fans can't remember a time when this match wasn't the most important fixture of all.
Rivalry, it's always been there ever since I was born, do you know what I mean? So it's still going to be there, it's never going to go.
In Swindon, the views are very much the same.
They chant, "We hate Oxford." It's never "we hate Cheltenham" or "we hate Reading," or it's always "we hate Oxford."
Those who studied the issue say it's inevitable that the most intense rivalries will be local.
There's no point comparing yourself to people who are completely unlike you or completely irrelevant, to Manchester United or to Barcelona. You compare yourself to someone who is like you, against whom you can match yourself. So in a way, you gain pride, perhaps not by being the best team in the world, but by being the best team on your patch.
In an attempt to prevent trouble, the game's been moved to an earlier time on Sunday, and the clubs and the supporters associations have appealed for fans to stay calm and enjoy the rivalry on the pitch.
Final preparations are being made by police and security teams ahead of tomorrow's match between fierce rivals Swindon Town and Oxford United. Over 100 officers will take part in the operation, supported by mounted police from the Thames Valley Force. Ticket sales ended at midday today. Kick-off has been moved to 1 o'clock in a bid to reduce excessive drinking. And the club will have 160 stewards on duty.
Yeah, we've got extra stewards. Obviously, the police is the highest category of police game that we could have, which is Category C, which means there'll be an abundance of police here, as well as several other resources available to the police force. Stewarding, we've got our maximum number of stewards that we would require for a game of this magnitude. And you know, as far as we're concerned, between ourselves and the local police force, we have prepared for any eventuality and have got contingency plans in place.
On the pitch, Swindon have signed striker Leon Clark, seen here scoring for Preston earlier this year. The forward was released by QPR yesterday and could make his debut tomorrow.
One game in League Two today. Paolo di Canio Swindon are taking on their rivals Oxford, and our reporter Jonathan Oakes is at the county ground. John.
Welcome to the county ground for the first derby between Swindon and Oxford since 2002. It's an eagerly awaited match, especially for the Swindon chairman, Jeremy Ray, who joins me now. Jeremy, how big is this game? Paolo di Canio has said that it's a bigger game as he's ever been involved in.
He's certainly played in a few derbies, that's true, so he would know. I mean, from a Swindon perspective, we haven't had this game for 10 years, so there's anticipation, there's expectation. So it's a mixture of excitement and nerves for everybody, I think. So let's just hope it all goes off peacefully. It's a great game and that a full house really enjoys it.
What is the rivalry like between these two sets of fans?
It's a fierce rivalry. It's been there. It's the one, people claim there are rivalries with other clubs, with the Bristol clubs, with Reading, and because they are local derbies and they have a certain passion. But Oxford has always been, I suppose, historically the true rival, which means most to both sets of fans.
In the build-up to this game, there has been some trouble at Oxford's ground. Some Swindon fans caught burning STFC into the pitch. What's your view of that?
Yeah, that's always unfortunate because that just stirs up unnecessary feeling, and that's not the rivalry. You want to encourage a sporting rivalry. These rivalries are very important, and you want that to continue, but in the right way. So of course we can't condone that type of action, and hopefully that there isn't too much damage done to that pitch. It gets sorted out as quickly as possible.
How much have you missed this game over the last few years?
It's the truth is, there have been a couple of divisions apart, and going back 10, 15 years, it was the other way around. We've had Oxford divisions above us, and then they've been a couple of divisions below us, and then been down in the conference. But then we slipped down, and they got promoted, and suddenly it's come around quicker than maybe we thought it would do. So it's been missed, and I don't know. Do we want it to continue? If we both go up through the leagues and keep it going, it's good for both sides. Because it's 2 games a season that you can really look forward to.
How would you assess the start that Paolo has made here as manager? A great win on the opening day of this season, but a couple of defeats since.
Yeah, look, he hasn't got yet. We're very close to giving him the squad that he said he always wanted. It's no secret that we've struggled to bring in the big target man or men that we've been looking for, and I can tell you that both target men that we're trying to get are actually here today, and one will play, and one we're hoping to sign fairly soon. And then it'll be a very different look side. He's in the space of 2 months. We're having people together. We had 13 or 14 players out. It takes time to build a team, but I'm very happy with everything I've seen about Paolo. The way that he works, he's very diligent, he's very thorough. The hours that he puts in, it's the professionalism and passion that I bought into when I interviewed him, and I know is just a part and parcel of what will ensure that he makes a very successful manager.
Bit of team news there. Does that mean that Leon Clark starts today?
Have I let that slip out? I wouldn't possibly say. I don't want to be one of the chairmen who start picking the team, so I don't know who starts. But gosh, he may do. You never know. So I saw him wandering around with the Swindon shirts. We got that for him fairly quickly. So let's hope he does. Yeah.
Excellent stuff. Thank you very much indeed for your time,
right.
Jeremy. Well, eagerly anticipated this derby between Swindon and Oxford. Kick-off here is at 1 o'clock.
Paolo di Canio, Swindon are hosting local rivals Oxford in a huge game this afternoon. We've got the very latest team news now ahead of kick-off with our reporter at the county ground, and that's Jonathan Oakes. Jonathan.
Yes, it's the first meeting between these two teams since 2002. Really eagerly anticipated derby. And in the build-up to this game, Paolo di Canio has really been talking it up, saying that it's one of the most important games he's ever been involved in. It's just as big as the other derbies he's played in the past. And he's played in the Rome derby, the Milan derby, the Old Firm. He's really been talking this match up, and he says that this is Swindon's World Cup final. As for his team news, he's made 4 changes from the 1-0 defeat to Dagenham and Redbridge on Tuesday. Swindon started the season well with a 3-0 win over Crewe, but since then 2 defeats, so Di Canio has taken action today. 4 changes, the most noteworthy of which, Di Canio has dropped his captain. Oliver Rissa has been dropped to the bench. He's been brought in over the summer, the Namibian, but he's on the bench today. The other 3 players to drop out: Alberto Kamatsi, who was injured in midweek, Alan McCormack and Billy Bodin. Bodin's replacement today is Leon Clark. So big news there, a debut for Leon Clark after he joined from QPR last week. The other players to come in: Joe De Vera, Simon Ferry and John Smith. As for Oxford, a great 2-0 win over Shrewsbury for them in midweek, but that's not stopped Chris Wilder from making changes to his team. Peter Leven comes in for his first start since moving from MK Dons. The other change for them is Alfie Potter. Those 2 players come in for Asa Hall and Dean Smalley. Kick-off here is at 1 o'clock. It's a police request for an early kick-off on a Sunday here. Big rivalry between the 2 sets of fans, and a 13,000 sellout expected. It's a kick-off at 1, as I say. It's Swindon against Oxford.
In League 2, Swindon are up against Oxford United. The game has kicked off there. We're a few minutes in. Let's find out how it's going from Jonathan Oakes.
It's a frantic start here to this local derby. Oxford have just come close to scoring. Alfie Potter getting it down the right-hand side and crossing for Lewis Guy, but he seemed to just get the ball stuck under his feet, and it was an easy save in the end for the Swindon keeper, Paul Smith. Swindon have had a couple of corners so far, but Oxford have managed to scramble the ball away on both occasions. It's a real cauldron here, really noisy. The Swindon and Oxford fans enjoying the opening exchanges, but it's still Swindon 0, Oxford 0.
Well, thank you, Jonathan. One thing he failed to mention there, in fact, there's been a controversial penalty, believe it or not. There has been a penalty shootout there.
Yeah, there has already been a penalty at the game. Big one this. Oh dear. That was Rockin' Robin. His shoe fell off, and it was pretty straightforward for Ollie the Ox to save it. But then Rockin' Robin saved it himself. Well done. Wonderful.
Impressive stuff.
Yeah.
And it looks like there may have been a goal at the county ground in League 2 in the 1 o'clock kick-off. Swindon are up against Oxford United. Let's find out who it's gone to. Jonathan Oakes.
There has been a goal, and it's the away side who've taken the lead. Oxford lead here, and it's James Constable who scored the goal. Peter Leven, the new signing from MK Dons, with the corner. He's swung it in, and James Constable, the near post, beating Phil Smith to put Oxford 1-0 up. Now, James Constable has been the subject of the build-up to this game. Paolo di Canio said in the week that he'd love to sign Constable for Swindon because he's a Swindon fan. Now, Chris Wilder, the Oxford manager, insists that Constable is a Tottenham fan. It doesn't matter who he supports. He's put Oxford a goal up here. It's Swindon 0, Oxford 1.
Well, one thing you can be guaranteed now, Paolo Di Canio is certainly not a fan of him at the moment. We'll keep you posted on that game in League 2.
Right, in League 2, it's a Swindon up against Oxford United. Let's find out how things are looking there. Jonathan Oakes.
It's an equaliser here for Swindon. It's Swindon 1, Oxford 1. The goal scored by Matt Ritchie across from the left-hand side. And it looked like Liam Clark was going to get in for the header, but while the Oxford defenders were trying to look after him, it was Matt Ritchie who came in, probably the smallest player in the Swindon team, ghosting in to head Swindon level. Now, it looked like there was some rather exuberant celebrations on the Swindon touchline after that goal. The referees just had to go and have a word with Paolo Di Canio. He's had to calm down the situation there. Paolo Di Canio and Chris Wilder having a bit of a heated exchange on the touchline after that Swindon equaliser. So it's really game on here. Matt Ritchie with the goal. It's Swindon 1, Oxford 1.
Well, it was all level the last we checked in the League 2 match between Swindon and Oxford United. Let's find out how things are standing at the moment with Jonathan Oakes.
Still all level, still being played at a frantic pace, and to be honest, since Swindon equalised through Matt Ritchie, it's been all Swindon. They just came very close to going ahead. Aidan Flint's header saved by Ryan Clark in the Oxford goal. And you can tell that the Oxford fans are a little concerned about this Swindon pressure, because Swindon have just had a corner. The Oxford fans insisted on keeping the ball, making Swindon wait to take that corner, and the ball went missing. So the police are trying to find this ball in amongst the Oxford fans behind the goal, but Swindon couldn't make any use of that corner, and it remains Swindon 1, Oxford 1.
In the 1 o'clock kick-off in League 2, Oxford United are up against Swindon Town, and we can head to Jonathan Oakes for an update there. Jonathan.
3 minutes before half-time, and Oxford are back ahead. It's James Constable again with the second goal. The goal scored after Peter Leven swung in a free kick from the right-hand side, left-footed free kick. Lewis Guy flicked it on, and James Constable was there to put Oxford 2-1 ahead. He'd scored Oxford opener as well. But since then, really, it's been all Swindon. The second goal against the run of play here. Swindon will be very disappointed that they've conceded that from a free kick, and just before half-time as well. It's just before half-time, a couple of minutes to go, and it's Swindon 1, Oxford 2.
Feisty derby, it sounds like. We'll keep you posted on that. It's already half-time in the earlier kick-off, the 1 o'clock kick-off at the county ground. Swindon against Oxford. Oxford happier at half-time, Jonathan Oakes.
Very much so. Half-time here in this local derby, and it's probably come at a good time. A few players losing their tempers a bit just before the half-time whistle. Swindon players piling in on Lewis Guy, who they felt had gone down a little too easily. That after James Constable had put Oxford back in front. He's scored both of Oxford's goals today. The man who the Swindon manager Paolo di Canio has said this week he wants to sign because he's a Swindon fan. Well, even if he is, he scored 2 against them this afternoon. Matt Ritchie scored the Swindon goal, but we go in with the score at Swindon 1, Oxford 2.
Thank you, John. Well, the second half has just got going at Swindon. We'll be back there shortly for the very latest, but let's have a look at the best of the action so far. Well, Peter Leven's corner was headed in at the front post by James Constable. The striker had been linked with a move to Swindon, but he put Oxford 1-0 up and kissed their badge too. But Swindon soon equalised with a header of their own. Matt Ritchie with his first goal of the season. And manager Paolo di Canio was spoken to by the referee whilst his team celebrated. And the home side could have gone ahead. Paul Cadice's cross was hit over the bar by Rafael de Vita. And Swindon continued to put pressure on Oxford. Ritchie had a few chances, including this shot, which went just over. But Oxford took the lead before half-time. Again, Leven's cross once more led to Constable to score 2-1 at half-time. And we can head live there now. Jonathan Oakes.
Yes, the second half is underway here. Swindon can feel pretty aggrieved to be losing 2-1 in this game, but as you saw there, a couple of set pieces proved their undoing in the first half. Paolo di Canio has responded by bringing on a striker for the second half. Mehdi Karouche, an Algerian who di Canio has brought in this summer. He's come on for Rafael de Vita. Karouche, an Algerian, like I say, has also brought in 4 Italians, a Dutchman, a Spaniard and a Namibian. 10 signings for di Canio this summer. Let's see if Karouche can make a difference. It's just a couple of minutes into the second half so far. It remains Swindon 1, Oxford 2.
Balanced derby between Swindon and Oxford is into the second half. The Swindon manager Paolo di Canio, ahead of the game, was speaking about the intensity of the occasion. Jonathan Oakes, has it bubbled over?
It certainly has, yes. Paolo di Canio was saying that this was Swindon's World Cup final and it's all become a little bit too much for him. He's just been sent to the stands. He was particularly aggrieved about a tight offside call. Leon Clark looked like he was going to be through on goal, but he was flagged offside. Di Canio not happy with that decision. He was also upset because just before that, Lewis Guy, the Oxford striker, had gone down very easily. A clear dive. The referee just waved play on, but Di Canio obviously upset about that. So those 2 incidents contributed to Di Canio losing his temper, and he'll have to watch the rest of this match from the stands. His team are still losing 2-1.
Well, there's one game in League Two for you today. Swindon up against Oxford United. It was the 1 o'clock kickoff. Let's find out how things are looking in that one with Jonathan Oakes.
It's still Swindon 1, Oxford 2 here, but really Leon Clark should have equalised for Swindon on his debut. He joined the club from QPR on a free transfer on Friday and found himself in the clear. He was well placed. He could only really toe poke the ball and it went well over the bar. A great chance for Clark to make himself a hero here. Swindon have just made a couple of changes. Alan Connell has come on for Mehdi Karouche. Now Karouche was a substitute himself, came on at half-time, but he's got injured and he's had to go off for Alan Connell. And another new signing, Lander Gabilondo, the Spanish winger, former Real Sociedad and Osasuna winger, so good pedigree there. He's come on for Etienne Assayas. Maybe those 2 players can make a change for Swindon. Oxford haven't won at Swindon since 1973, but at the moment they're on the way to that win. It's Swindon 1, Oxford 2.
In League Two, Jonathan Oakes is watching Oxford United up against Swindon. How are things there, Jonathan?
It's still Swindon 1, Oxford 2 in this local derby here. And the Swindon fans are getting a bit frustrated with their team now, and you can't blame them. They've had most of the possession in this game and a lot of the good chances as well. Leon Clark has come closest to equalising for them in this half, but on his debut after signing from QPR, he could only shoot over when well placed. Clark has put himself about, he's looked decent today, but he's been nullified by another player with lots of Premier League experience, Michael Dewberry, who's held firm in the Oxford defence. So just about 5 minutes left of this game, but lots of added on time, you'd think, lots of subs here. So still time for Swindon to get an equaliser, but at the moment it's still Swindon 1, Oxford 2.
We can bring you a full-time report now on Swindon against Oxford, a very, very spicy derby, watched by Jonathan Oakes.
It's finished here, Swindon 1, Oxford 2, and Paolo Di Canio described this game as Swindon's World Cup final and the most important game he's ever been involved in. Well, it ended in frustration for Swindon, and Di Canio was sent to the stands after a couple of decisions that he didn't agree with by the referee in the second half. James Constable has been the difference between the two teams today. Di Canio said in the week that he was interested in signing him because he's a Swindon fan. That has been rejected by the Oxford manager, Chris Wilder, who suggests that he is in fact a Tottenham fan and not a Swindon fan at all. But he's been the problem for Swindon today, scoring both goals for Oxford, and Matt Ritchie scoring the Swindon goal. It's really revenge for the Oxford fans today, because the Swindon fans got into the Oxford ground last week and burnt STFC into the Oxford pitch, so it's revenge for them. They've got the bragging rights. It's their first win at Swindon since 1973. Their team has won a pulsating derby. It's finished here, Swindon 1, Oxford 2.
Back to League Two, and Oxford United beat local rivals Swindon 2-1 at the county ground, and Swindon manager Paolo di Canio was also sent to the stands. It wasn't a good day for the Italian. Well, Oxford went ahead after Peter Leven's corner was headed in at the near post by James Constable. Striker had been linked with a move to Swindon, but he put Oxford 1-0 up. Kissed the badge as well, just to rub salt into the wounds. Swindon soon equalised with a header of their own. Matt Ritchie with his first goal of the season. And Di Canio was spoken to by the referee whilst his team celebrated. Wasn't the last we saw of him. The home side could have gone ahead when Paul Caddis's cross was headed over by Rafael De Vita. Swindon continued to put pressure on Oxford. Ritchie had a few chances, including this shot. But it was Oxford who took the lead. Again, Leven's cross. Again, Constable there, 2-1 at half-time. And in the second half, the referee had enough. Di Canio continued to argue with the officials. He was sent to the stands. He was upset with an offside decision. Swindon manager forced to watch the rest amongst the fans. Substitute Lando Gabilondo came on for his Swindon debut, and the Spaniard created a chance for himself from the wing, but Michael Dewberry blocked his shot. It ended 2-1 to Oxford.
Wiltshire Police mounted a substantial operation today as football rivals Swindon Town and Oxford United played for the first time in 9 years. There were a number of arrests but no major problems, as Oxford, for so long the lower ranked of the two sides, won the match by 2-1. David Passmore reports.
By any standards, this was a large police operation. 150 officers in all, and they were clearly very keen to prevent any sign of trouble escalating. A key moment came as the Oxford fans were escorted past the ground. It's 12:30, half an hour before kick-off. Some very vocal Oxford fans making their way to the away end. Across the green, a group of Swindon fans chanting back, separated by quite a few police.
We put a lot of work into ensuring that this day would go without any disorder, and hopefully our plans will come to fruition.
Eventually the game got underway and Oxford's James Constable scored after 12 minutes. Ironically, the player's Swindon manager, Paolo Di Canio, said he wanted to sign and said was a Swindon fan. Swindon equalised after 20 minutes with a header from Matt Ritchie. And just before half-time, James Constable didn't look much like a Swindon fan as he got his second and Oxford's winner. In the second half, the Swindon manager was sent to the stand for leaving his technical area. So the first match between these rivals here at the county ground in Swindon for more than a decade has ended in an away win. Swindon created enough chances to win it, but that'll come of little consolation to their new manager.
Well, I think we played amazing today, to be honest. There's only one team in the game.
We played well, though. That's the more disappointing thing, that we played well. We just couldn't score the goal.
Oxford fans were escorted away from the ground. In all, there were 12 arrests, but both police and the club will be pleased that such a high-profile game with potential for violence had passed off without serious incident. David Passmore, BBC Points West, Swindon.
Beat local rival Swindon 2-1 at the county ground in a match which also saw Swindon manager Paolo di Canio sent to the stands. Oxford went ahead after Peter Leven's corner was headed in at the near post by James Constable. The striker had been linked with a move to Swindon, but he put Oxford 1-0 up. Kissed the badge. Oops, watch that. Swindon equalised. Matt Ritchie with his first goal of the season. So they were back in it, but the referee had words with Di Canio while his team celebrated. And the home side then could have gone ahead. Paul Caddy's cross knocked over the top, blazed over the top by Raffaele De Vita. Swindon continued to put pressure on Oxford though. Ritchie with his shot, and that screamed over. Well over. But it was Oxford who took the lead. Leven's cross yet again enabled Constable to score. 2-1 at half-time. And in the second half, Di Canio continued to argue with the officials and he was sent to the stand. He was upset with an offside decision, but the Swindon manager had to watch the rest of the game amongst the fans. Substitute Landa Gabilondo came on for his Swindon debut, and the Spaniard created a chance for himself from the wing, but Michael Dewberry blocked his shot. Di Canio, none too magnanimous in defeat.
We played much better than the opponents, so we dominated the game. We created 7, 8 chances in front of the goal, and we lost 1. We lost 1 because they didn't create chance. They scored from 1 corner kick, 1 free kick, 2 set plays, 2 goals. So it means that we have to do much more for handle this situation. And otherwise, we still, again, speaking about a good performance, we deserve to win, but we lost. So it's not anymore acceptable. We have to be careful. I have to study much better, maybe the set plays, or to give some markers, you know, to the right people, right players. But this is a part of my job, and I have to go through this moment.
I think there's going to be some fun and games at the county ground this season.
I think so. Well, Paolo's there, that is for certain.
Now, fans of Oxford United have been celebrating after their first win over Swindon Town for 38 years. The U's beat the Robins 2-1 in the Thames Valley derby. It was the first time the sides had met in 9 years. 150 officers were on hand to deter trouble between rival fans.
Speechless.
Unbelievable,
speechless. They battered us, but we beat them, which makes it even more sweet.
A draw would have been enough with it being away from home. But to come away with a win, it's made the week, really.
We haven't beat them since 73, but come on.
And how old are you in 73?
Weren't born.
Okay, well, congratulations, Oxford United.
The top of League Two looks promising for a couple of our sides as well. After each putting 3 past their opponents, Crawley and Gillingham are both on 10 points. The first of our action is from yesterday's game at Swindon, though, where there was an historic victory for Oxford United.
James Constable's brace gave Oxford their first win at Swindon in 38 years. He headed home to open the scoring, and Swindon grabbed a deserved equaliser 8 minutes later. Before the break, though, Constable claimed the bragging rights.
Football now, and Paolo di Canio says his Swindon side are heading in the right direction despite losing yesterday's derby game against Oxford. Their Italian manager was also sent to the stands in the second half for leaving his technical area to argue with the officials. But he says he's now learned his lesson, as Alistair Durden reports.
It feels good to celebrate a Derby Day goal, but this was not to be Paolo di Canio or Swindon's day in the end, as Oxford won at the county ground for the first time in 38 years.
I feel such pain because I know that we hurt also our fans. But once again, I can say only I'm very sad for them. Not sorry. Not sorry because we play in the way we should.
It's clear Swindon have a weakness. All the goals they've conceded so far this season have come from set pieces. Di Canio's side created more chances than their opponents. Matt Ritchie's goal was the least they deserved. But a free kick was their undoing. Malmesbury-born James Constable getting his second for Oxford. And then the manager was banished to the stands for leaving the dugout area a second time, having already been warned for sprinting up the touchline when Swindon had scored.
Someone think I lost my temper. No, I wanted only to celebrate because also I have my emotion. In a game like this, I feel more than the other games. I know the rules. Unfortunately, it happened. I have to accept it and become better manager.
He had to watch the rest from the stand. A thrill, no doubt, for the fans he was sitting with. But there was no way back for his Swindon side.
If Swindon play like that, they'll comfortably finish above Oxford on the table.
I'm going home disheartened, but on the other hand, I think it was a really good performance and there's a lot to look forward to.
Di Canio called it their best performance of the season, a small consolation for losing to your bitter rivals. Alistair Durden, BBC Points West.
Swindon made a poor start against their fiercest rivals as James Constable headed Oxford in front. They quickly hit back with Matt Ritchie jumping highest to equalise, much to the delight of boss Paolo di Canio. But Constable, the player Di Canio claims is a Swindon fan, scored again to seal victory for Oxford. And that was too much for Swindon's volatile Italian manager, who was later sent to the stands for leaving his technical area. Next up for Di Canio and Town is another local derby against Bristol City.
Oxford travel to Swindon for the A420 derby on Sunday afternoon and signalled their intentions early on. Lewis Guy going close. And it wasn't long before they were on the score sheet. James Constable, a recent transfer target for Swindon, heading home his first goal of the campaign for Oxford. Swindon went in search of an equaliser. Leon Clark near to a goal on his debut for the club. Swindon did indeed draw level 8 minutes later to send the Robins fans into full chorus. Matt Ritchie opening his account. Swindon continued to pile on the pressure and should have gone ahead. Rafael De Vita somehow missing from close range. Despite the pressure, the visitors were ahead just before the break. Constable again in the right place to give the U's a slender lead going into half-time. Paolo di Canio's team haven't won since the opening game of the season, and the frustration showed. Di Canio sent to the stands by referee Mark Hayward for dissent. Swindon dominated play but couldn't find an equaliser. Goalkeeper Ryan Clark frustrating home fans. Substitute Lander Gabilondi was brought on with 20 minutes to go to try to change the Robins' fortunes, but he couldn't find a way past the Oxford defence either. Indeed, Chris Wilder's team had some chances of their own to extend the lead. Goalscorer Constable denied a hat-trick by home stopper Phil Smith. In the dying minutes, Swindon rallied for an equaliser. Ritchie's effort brilliantly held though by Clark to preserve Oxford's lead. Full-time delight for the travelling fans. Oxford's first win at Swindon since 1973.
Swindon Town mascot Rockin' Robin was in good spirits ahead of his side's League Two match against Oxford United at the county ground. However, Rockin's mood would no doubt have been dampened when alleged Swindon fan James Constable outjumped everybody to head home a Peter Levin corner. The Robins responded with a fine effort from Leon Clark, who neatly controlled a long ball from homekeeper Phil Smith. The Robins were rocking as Matt Ritchie grabbed the equaliser. Callum Kennedy provided the cross from the left, which was met by the midfielder to make it 1-1. And it was almost 2-1 to Paolo Di Canio's men. A jinking run and cross by Paul Caddis was almost turned home by striker Rafael De Vita. However, it was the home side who conjured up the second goal. Levin whipped in the free kick, which was parried by Smith, and Constable was on hand to score with the home side claiming handball. The controversy didn't end there. Clark was flagged offside, then through on goal, and the decision incensed Di Canio. Referee Mark Hayward took exception to the fiery Italian's comments and sent him to the stand. Substitute Landa Gabilondo came close to equalising, but his long-range effort was saved by Clark. Oxford held on to record their first away win at arch-rival Swindon in 38 years.